You have an atrocity, national, worldwide atrocity in the slavery we suffered.
Sure.
And you have an oppressor.
Sure.
There's another nationality that went through something, not nowhere close, but they'll argue it's similar. It's in the Holocaust.
Sure.
Why aren't Jewish families having to do what we did with coming to England and work and send back barrels for their children? We're the only people who are known as barrel babies. Why, hold on, why aren't Jewish children in Tel Aviv similar to children on the gully or in Kingston or in, hold on, I ain't finished, or in the grill somewhere? Why is that happening to us? And show me Jewish fathers that fought in World War II for England and helped rebuild England after World War II in the English, like us. We've paid our dues. I'm finished. Let me finish. We've paid our dues. We've worked harder and longer than people, the sons and daughters of the British Empire. We deserve something that's, we don't have to work for anymore.
Okay. Homie, I've been one who has bred, one who has vetted, one who has pumping through my blood, don't forget it. One who has in my brain, one who has in my heart, one who has when I finish, one who has when I start.
So we're in BBC in Birmingham. We're going to do this interview quickly. Of course, Captain Karate Officer Dumlubar, Officer Raban here, Captain Mashak also, the ISUPK and the Commander General Yahanna. Topic today going to be parenting in our households and how to fix our households. So y'all stay tuned, alright? Y'all hear Bob Marley in the back. Ain't no Bunny Whale or Peter Tosh. See what I'm saying? Ain't no Bunny Whale or Peter Tosh.
Now let's get back to the two organisations in the studio. Dr. Dwayne Neal from the Reach Society, good evening. Can you tell us why your organisation was created?
Yeah, Grace, thank you for the opportunity just to say that. In 2010, we were aware of a programme that was started by the government. It was called the Reach National Role Model Programme, and it had just failed after 18 months. And two of my friends were involved in it. I watched it from afar because I thought perhaps this time it was going to make a difference, but it didn't. So we got our heads together and we said, whose responsibility is it to inspire young people in the Black community? And we all arrived at the same conclusion. It's our responsibility as the adults in the Black community to inspire our young people. 6 months later, we had the scope, the framework, and the clarity about how we were going to go about launching and developing Reach Society. So that's the origin.
Wow, so when you say the adults in there, just talking about it doesn't have to be parents, uncles, just adults who are around young people.
Adults in our community. Notice I've not attached it to young people because I think within our community, as in all communities, it's the adults who exercise the effective leadership. So we were basically saying it is for people like us who see themselves as adults in our community to take on the leadership of inspiring our young people.
Wow. And what impacts have you found that Reach Society has made since you realised that?
That is such an important question because this is our 15th anniversary. It's our milestone year.
Congratulations.
We know because we track all the young people that we impact, over 50,000 have been impacted by us. And we hear from their parents that it's had transformational impact on the approach of those young people after they've attended one of our inspirational events. And I can say a little bit more about that later.
Yeah, please do. I mean, one of the things that's really tricky when you're having to influence people or mentor people, I'm not saying that you do mentoring, you can go into more detail about what you do, but measuring that impact. I mean, you've heard from parents, which is a fantastic measure of impact. They're saying, I can see you've made a difference in my child. What other measures are there to actually measure that impact that you've been making?
The most important measure is to have a young person who is now clear about what he or she needs to do to move forward. So here is how we know. You come to an inspirational event, you meet a lot of people from your community, going places, and you invariably end up asking the obvious question. If they're doing it, what am I going to do? If they're doing it, what am I going to do? And that is the change a lot of those parents realize. So you come to a Reach Society inspiration event. You come away thinking, I now know why school matters. You come away thinking, I now know why getting a degree or professional qualification matters. You come to a Reach Society event, you now know that you shouldn't be sitting around waiting for somebody to carry you, but you must exercise your own agency to move yourself forward. And you can get a lot of help the moment you start to adopt that mindset. That's the sort of changes the parents see in their children.
Incredible. We want to hear some more about that later as well. We've also got two other guests here, Captain Mashak and Captain Karathia from the ISUPK. And you've created a new parenting project called From Chaos to Focus. Could you tell us what you hope to achieve with this program and why you started off in the first place?
Definitely. Again, good night and shalom to everybody who's listening, to the guests and to the host. I appreciate you all for having us. We're the ISUPK, which is the Israelite School of Universal and Practical Knowledge. We started out 125th Street, 1 West, Harlem, New York in 1969. We're currently ruled by, well, not ruled but governed by and taught by an individual called Commanding General Yahanna, right? And he grew up, he's actually from the Caribbean. When his parents moved to New York, he grew up in New York. And as a young man in the 80s, he found the Israelite School of UPK. And, you know, he started learning about the Bible and learning who we are as a people. And when I say who we are, those of us who are scattered into the UK and the Caribbean, in North America, Central and South America. And the rules in the Bible gave us the foundation. He's taught this to all of us. It gave us the foundation to build a successful community.
That's right.
Right? And loosely and historically, you look at any empire, their rules come from biblical standards. So now when we look internally at our communities, there's certain things that are absent, and that has caused us to have a decay over decades to the point that we see now. So our aim is to restore our communities, but we're also seeing that we need some focused on different parts of it. So for instance, Commander Yahanna has a prison program, and this is a worldwide organization. We're in North America, in the UK, in South America, Canada, in the Caribbean islands. We have prison programs everywhere where brothers and sisters who may have very long terms can learn. Right. We have brothers and sisters who totally are decimating the recidivism rate in terms of the revolving door. Mm. They find out about it in there and they come out and never go back. We have brothers and sisters who have not been in that situation, but have been in life and saw failures without explanation. Mm. And that hurts Black people. That hurts our community. That hurts anybody who's in that situation where if you fail and you don't know why you fail, you don't even know if you did fail. You don't know if you're good enough. And the Israelite School of UPK puts a certain amount of purpose and focus and understanding to our life. Yeah. And we've been able to, have tremendous changes by those who have come to us, with different, addictions or, need counseling problems, therapy. We have licensed therapists in our organization. We have, full of engineers, mechanics, professors, people from all walks of life at all stages of life. So we definitely, want to let the wider public, especially in Birmingham, know who we are and where you could come to get help. Because we're seeing that in Birmingham, there's declining statistics. We're seeing now that Birmingham is the third highest in homelessness in the entire UK. We're seeing now that the council announced that they're moving their affordable housing target. They're lowering it from 35% to about 20%, which means there's a certain demographic that they're not going to be able to cover. Mm-hmm. Now this could stem from different things. Could be the current economy, UK, EU, Brexit. Who knows? That's affecting the profit margins, which make decisions that affect our neighborhoods.
There's a lot of pressures from everywhere, isn't there? Really?
There's a lot of contributing factors. Yeah. But what I'm seeing is there are other communities that have insulated themselves from these changes. We don't have an insulation because we don't have a nation. We don't have a recognized unit that's robust enough to withstand changes.
Well, on that, I'd like to ask, because I know that your project in particular is focused on parents, and I know there are a lot of parents who'll be crying out for help. Like they might recognize a problem in their young people and their children, and thinking, I don't know what to do. What is your project doing to help parents with their children in that family unit, and then the wider family in the community?
I'm definitely glad you asked that. Okay, so again, coming from that biblical standpoint, the family is a unit. It's a micro nation. It's the building block of a nation. And in any building block in a house, you have to have certain ingredients for that block to be strong. A family must have a father, mother, children. Must have those parents. That's where the children come from. Father, the mother, children. In our communities that we've seen, we have a lot of homes without fathers. We have it's like an epidemic for us right now. And this is not a knock to any other nation or any other community, but we have different problems. And if we want to be equal, you can't treat everyone equal, but you have to inspect everyone on their merit. In our communities, our households do not have the male element. The male element is very foundational in any family. And this is no discredit to our women or our sisters. We can't do it without you. But we're seeing the evidence that you cannot do it without us. Yeah. There's so many studies by clinical psychiatrists that children coming from single father homes fare better than children coming from single mother homes.
Right.
We need to restore what we found, and Commander General Yahanna has found. We need to restore our men to their positions in their homes. That's right. That has to begin. Commander General Yahanna said something on the streets of America in 2007 when Barack Obama was running for election. And our community was behind him. And we were so gung-ho, finally, a black man in the White House. Commander General Yahanna said we shouldn't worry about putting a black man in the White House. We should worry about putting a black man in every black house. That's right. That's what we should worry about. Wow. That's what because now that gives us a fighting chance. That gives us balance. That gives us structure. That gives us everything that anybody who's observing us would list that we're missing. And again, this is not knocking our sisters. This is not your fault. But we have to now realize where we are and chart a course forward with clear intent and purpose of what we are going to build. We have to build our homes back. The other societies have solid home components, have a solid community, that their children, when they go to be a doctor, they know they're going to serve their community. When they go to be a lawyer, they go to serve their community. We're the only people who go get our education from another community to serve another community. That's right.
Well, we're going to look at some more solutions to some of the problems that we've discussed. Now we're going to play a track and we'll come back after this. Good evening, it's 8:30 with me, Grace Smith, and we've been talking about community with some amazing guests here in studio. Now, we went out and asked people what they would do if they were in charge of youth services. And this is what they said.
If I was in charge of the youth service, I would use distraction schemes and programs. For example, I spent 5 years working with young people in Sandwell and Walsall, and I engaged them through music and sports projects. And whilst they were teenagers, leading positive lifestyles, having positive role models and mentoring schemes.
Every child should have a mentor, even if they're excelling in school. Everyone needs someone that can guide and support them.
In my day, there was more youth clubs where children could go and be occupied with people like senior people that would look after them, where they'd play games and all that kind of stuff. Now there's nothing, they're just hanging on street corners. I think there should be more for them to do.
If I was in charge, I'd bring back Jesus in schools. The values, the way he lived his life, important things for young people to emulate.
I would have a massive, massive indoor and outdoor area where the young people could stay overnight. We have like trips and there'd be activities. They'd have to learn to work together, team building from all areas. So there's none of this separation with postcodes where people don't even pay rent and they're willing to take each other's lives over it.
So that's some of the Midlands voices there. If you've got anything you wanted to add, please feel free to call or text in. I'm here, and our amazing guests are here as well to take calls too. Now, I'm going to go to Dr. Dwayne Neal, who's here from the Reach Society. You've heard what people have thought. What would you say that you think would be a good solution?
I didn't hear clearly what was being said, so just clue me in terms of the gist of what was said.
Some people are saying distraction techniques for young people. So there's something for them to do. Basically, I suppose, idle hands, who get up to mischief. Oh God, I'm saying completely wrong, but you know what I mean. People saying that the need for Jesus to be back in people's lives so that there's some structure. Family. That was the general gist of that.
Okay.
So I don't know if you had any.
Well, that is good enough, because at the heart of that is what parents have in mind for their children from birth. And so I would use the example of what happened to me when I was growing up, and also what I did for my children. My mother, my father were very clear. We were not allowed to be idle. We were not allowed to be the young people who would say, I'm bored, I just want to go out and kick a can down the road. So my own experiences, school, Monday to Friday, but twice in the week, I went to youth club because I was potty about table tennis. I wouldn't be allowed to go if I didn't come back at the appropriate time. I loved table tennis, so I never jeopardized that. But I was also allowed to do Boy Scouts. So there were 2 evenings in the week when I had wider activities I could do that I loved. In addition to that, there were all the family things that we did together on the weekend. I did exactly the same with my 4 children, i.e. they were programmed into activities that were enriching, value added. And that way they too were never allowed to just wander loose, without purpose, without aim. And I think at the heart of nurturing every young person, it's about what the family, and I use the wider family, not just mum, not just dad, but those people who have caring responsibilities are taking responsibility to ensure that their children do. One of the things I didn't mention, I was also taking piano lessons because my parents wanted me to understand that. So that was part of the activity. So we never really had time to roam the streets. And I believe at the heart of the nurturing of all young people is ensuring that they have things that are enriching that they should do. My children, for example, from pre-5 through to age 18, all swam. In addition to gymnastics, in addition to dancing, in addition to learning musical instruments, because we understood, my wife and I, that if you engage them in value-added activities, they're never going to be kicking a can down the road.
Right. Do you find, and this is not just to you, Dr. Neal as well, but the captains, that there are enough things for young people to do? I know we're focusing on young people, on the communities more than young people, but being the bedrock of it. In this day and age now, so some people might complain, well, we don't know what's there to be done. We know a lot of youth centres have been shut down because of cuts and community projects and things with mentoring and volunteering. Do we have people who could just freely mentor or volunteer now without having to be a part of an organisation? Or do your organisations welcome people who are thinking, I want to contribute to society, I want to contribute to my community, I want to do something for young people? How can they maybe get involved if they can't do it on their own? They want to do it under the umbrella of something bigger. I'll take that to you, Captain Chuck.
No, tap me on the door. You sure? Well, okay, I definitely understand what you're saying. And I think that's kind of what I was alluding to with the first answer, right? Our children, or any children really, or any young person, even an animal, you could go on the animal planet and see where they put one species to be raised by a totally other species. And that young species starts taking on the characteristics of the pseudo-parent, who's a totally other animal. So that lets you know that young developing minds need something to latch on to. And it works not all the way if that thing they're latching on to looks like them or sounds like them and has the same experience, but it works perfectly if there's a mirrored identity. So now in our communities where the funding is going and the community centers are closing down. And if they're not closing down, there's a lot of bureaucracy and red tape for quote unquote mentors or people who would go in there and coach and teach and they have to do what DBS and all that type of stuff. There's a lot of bureaucracies. Now it's very ironic that the British system would put so much red tape on our mentors, but ran from the EU with Brexit because it's too much red tape. It was very ironic. I think we need freedoms in our community to structure our community the right way. Because there are many young men and women who have made mistakes in their teenage years and early 20s and will not pass a DBS, but their experience is way more, and can help our communities more. Right. So I think part of getting our younger people to latch on is freeing up and creating spaces for people who want to do it, not want to get paid for it, but actually want to devote their lives to do it. And the Israelite School of UPK has provided that spot. That's right. Okay. Yeah, has provided.
That's great. We've got a caller on the line. I believe we've got Liz on the line. Good evening. Hello, Liz. Thank you for calling in. What was it that you wanted to share?
Well, what I wanted to share is that I noticed that the young people these days don't fear God. They don't know God, simply because most of those teaching and lessons were taken out of the school. And so from the time it's taken out of the school, the youngsters seems to get worse because they have nothing to fear. They kill one another and so forth. And I was just wondering if that should go back in the school, and the youth clubs that used to happen I was growing up my children, that parents get involved as well, to know that the children, when they send them out, they go to youth club and they would go back and pick them up and so forth. Talk to them, let them know, again, what you've been through in your life and how you come through it, because nothing other than growing up in Jamaica. And if you can grow up in Jamaica and don't get into trouble and all that, you shouldn't be able to come to this country and get into trouble. But you have to have that discipline from the younger age. So when they come up with a goal, with something that, they do for. Because I have students I used to teach, mainly Jamaican, who come up from Jamaica. And when I would talk to them and said, why you want to do certain things they said they're going to do, they said, well, because, they sell up everything back home, come here, and there's nothing here, so the only thing they can do is go in crime.
Yeah.
So to them, you leave your country for so many miles, across the sea, to come here to go in crime. Why not go back to college? Why not do something?
Thank you, Liz. Yeah, no, I can appreciate that. I just want to put that to Dr. Neil at the moment, because Liz, you're just mentioning about the need for a God structure, really, in schools. What's your thoughts on that?
My belief is that parents would make a huge mistake if they expect schools to do what parents ought to be doing. Unfortunately, the schools are set up to deliver through teachers certain subjects between when school begins and when school closes. What happens to young people when school closes is no concern of theirs. So if any parent expects the schools to do more than they are paid to do, I think those parents are barking up the wrong tree. There is no escaping, in my experience, the responsibility of parents to ensure that when those children are not in school, they are doing things that you, the parents, value, that those children are interested in. That's the deal. So when our children weren't doing value-added activities, and I have 4 children, they're now all grown, they were either with my mother, because by then my father had died, or they were with their mother's parents. They lived to a ripe old age. They were never kicking the can down the road because they weren't involved in something value-added. We knew everything our children were doing because they were never street children.
Right.
It's a choice.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Neil. Thank you, Liz, for your call. I'm going to go over to Bam Bam as well, who's given a call in. Good evening.
How are you? How's it going?
Very well, thank you. Bam Bam, what is your take on community and young people tonight?
I think basically there's a lot going on with with the kids today, with all this, a lot of stuff that you're hearing about with all this postcode business, all this postcode stuff. And I think basically, a lot of kids today, I think they just get involved in the wrong crowds, and I feel quite sympathetic towards some of these kids actually, because the government, they don't actually supply anything for the kids to do.
Yeah.
And when the kids have to make up their own, devices and trying to get by and, make their own money and do whatever they have to do, there's no actually things out there for them to channel their energy into. And I think the government should be looking more to finding places for kids to go to express themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that they should be putting more into this. Nobody's bothered about the community, and they just seem to be taking everything away from the children instead of putting it back in. There should be sports halls and places where they can go to express themselves, and because a lot of generally as well, there's a lot of kids out there's got so much talent, but they've got nowhere to actually express this talent, and it comes in all kinds of forms. And because I'm into the arts myself, but back in the day, I used to be a semi-professional dancer myself, and that, So, but I think the government should think about putting more into the community, 1,000%. And what really gets me though, there's so many old buildings out there just falling to pieces.
No, absolutely. We can look at it.
Everywhere you turn, there's a building falling to pieces, and these buildings could be put to some good use.
Yeah. No, Bam Bam, thank you for your thoughts on that. We've got two incredible organisations here, so I'm just going to leave it with a bit of a solution, really. Like, how can people get involved if, like Bam Bam, we realise there's a need? What exists there for young people? So I'm going to go to you, Captain Mashak, first. Your organisation, just tell us a bit just about how people can get involved or support your organisation as you support the community.
I definitely understand. You would have to just get in contact with our school, and we take it from there. Right, that's what we would do. There's a lot of training involved, because of course you don't want to put just anybody who walks in off the street. Our future is very valuable.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure that. But could I just back up and also address what the I forget the sister's name called
Liz,
before.
yeah.
Liz called before. She asked about putting God back into the school, and as the doctor here rightfully said, you can't put so much emphasis on a school education that's not yours. What we need to have is our own school curriculum. We need to have our own communities, so that our children are going to school learning what our community needs and our community wants. Currently, the school system is geared towards making you a thriving citizen for British profit, and that's fine. But we should also have our children educated to help us, to help our needs, because every day on the news, you see pictures of certain people, and these communities is at risk. So why not have some focus on the community, for the community, by the community, without anybody else?
Yeah.
So we definitely do need the God aspect back. The Bible says God is our Father. Man, you need to put men back in the homes.
That's right.
You need to go right back to that. From that is where you're gonna, as you build your community, you are gonna have people who know each other that run these after-school programs. You don't need buildings for after-school programs. We all from the Caribbean. I remember, meet the coach on the field. Meet him on this big hill. We're gonna do hills every day. Meet him down there. You don't need a building. You need people. You need people who are invested in this for a lifetime. And guess what? That person who's coaching my children, I went to school with him. And all these kids who come here, they're contemporaries. And then they grow up, and then they fill these same gaps with the same laws. And now as we have these communities where these children come in to learn for future skills and get inspired, what you will find out is, as they grow and they abide by our laws, we start having a certain healthy respect for each other.
Yeah.
So now the jealousy and the easy seduction to violence or easy seduction to violate one another is not there. Because we live by a certain code that we don't do stuff like that. We have a certain amount of communal pride. That cannot come when we are subordinate to another system. Now we're living and learning the principles of that system, which was not made for us. Yeah. It's like putting a square peg in a round hole and then come to say equality when you're not respecting that I'm a square. I can't go into this round hole. You have to give me my space as a square and respect what I have. Now, if we're doing that, then we could have actual progress. And again, this is what the ISUPK teaches. This is what the Bible teaches. And we adhere to the rules and laws of the Bible. And from this, you're going to get your doctors. You're going to get your lawyers. You're going to get your architects. You're going to get everything we need that we're missing. But children do not identify with school anymore because they can't see themselves in that bigger British system. They can't see themselves. You have to give children something they can see. And as they see it, they'll strive towards it.
Thank you. Thank you, Captain Ashok. Thank you all for coming in. So, Dr. Dwayne Neal from the Reach Society, thank you. If you know, can get in touch. Captain Mashak from I'm going to get this right, ISUPK. You can write up there. And Captain Howard. Right, as well. Thank you so much. And to Liz and for Bam Bam who called in, thank you so much.
Welcome to Atlanta. Price is Officer 5000, Jeremiah, the camp leader of Atlanta. Passover 2025, starting April the 9th, we got the lamb slaughter. April the 10th, we got General Muhammad's flag. April the 11th, we got the Black Party that's going to have the Hebrew graduation. April the 12th, in Atlanta, Georgia, the 56th annual Passover, the only Passover under Commander General Yahanna.
Our great and holy King have honored us for turning our lives from the darkness to the light, man. There's no greater gift you can receive than to wake up to the truth and then commit your life to saving your brothers, man. Looking in their eyes and seeing their faces and seeing what they've suffered and what they've gone through and seeing the end of it, man. It is a guaranteed seat in the kingdom of heaven, man. So in the name of our King Yahushua, we dedicate us another Passover of brothers and sisters' lives being saved.
April the 13th, we got the Feast of Unleavened Bread.
Shalom.